Hello and welcome. Today we are in the Tier 6 US heavy cruiser, the Pensacola. Now, I know what you're thinking. You read the title and were like, hold on, that can't be right. We're talking about the Pensacola, right? That ship is not great. It can't be great. It's impossible. I know what you're thinking. I understand that. That's what I thought too. But the other day I was just, checking out the ships. And I happened on the Pensacola, and I noticed that her bow had 25mm armor, and I was like, okay, whatever. I kept scrolling on, and then I was like, hold on, 25mm? Isn't it a Tier 6 cruiser? And then I went back and checked, and yeah, Pensacola's bow and stern and the sides and the deck are all 25mm. Now, what's significant about this is that that's basically what the battleships have at this tier, and the tier above this one. So the standard armor for battleships is 25, well, it's 26mm now, but functionally it's the same. The only difference is against HE. So battleships at this tier and tier 7 have 26mm standard armor. The Pensacola has 25mm standard armor. So this means that they are almost identical in this standard armor sense. Which means that if you're fighting a battleship that has below 380mm guns, then your bow will simply bounce those shells off. And what's significant about this is that there are plenty of tier 6 cruisers that are like that, or battleships, sorry. Say the Fuso, the Ismail, the New Mexico, West Virginia, etc, etc. Quite many of them are that way, which means that Pensacola is actually quite effective against them. And then I played her a little bit, and I realized that the AP on these shells is amazing. I mean, you can see I have 5 citadels. It's 3 minutes and 30 seconds into the game. By the way, this isn't even a full match. However, you do need to keep in mind that her sides are still very, very, very squishy. The citadel armor is something only like 86, 87mm, so it's not amazing, but the AP is pretty incredible, and she can bounce battleship shells, well, many of them, while still having pretty decent anti-air. The main downside is that her concealment is god-awful. 12.4 kilometers. This is essentially battleship level, but I mean, that's something you can work around with. And another nice thing is that because her guns are 203mm, it ends up penning everything with HE. In those cases that you do need to fire it. 11k damage against a ship that has 30k HP from 13 kilometers. This is like playing a Soviet cruiser at tier 10. I mean, it feels basically the same way, or one of those super cruisers with amazing AP, etc. This truly is surprisingly good. I really didn't expect anything like this, but when I actually tried it, has been pretty damn good. So, right now, I pushed over here. You saw me use the island to try to get myself into cover, etc., because the ship doesn't have any heal, etc., so you do need to be careful. Now, the ship has one fairly massive downside, and that is her turret traverse is 45 seconds. Yeah. We're talking, this is actual battleship level turret traverse. It is slow, especially on a ship that has very good maneuverability. The rudder on this ship switches very quickly, and on top of that, the turning circle isn't even that big, which means that, yeah, you're gonna wait for your turrets to turn quite often. But I mean, that's a small price to pay for the amazingness of these AP shells. She also has 10 turrets. You see she has one turret with 3 guns and another one with 2 guns at the bow and stern both. Okay, so we've dealt with those guys. They're on the map border. Screw them. Let's deal with this Piotr Veliki that seems to be aiming at my Normandy for some reason. AP is gonna be fine here. Easy. Okay, so I guess I'll just advance toward the Graf Spee and the Britannia over there as I shell these cruisers from far away. Now, if you do get into tier 8 matches, it's not very fun. But then again, you wouldn't really feel much better in a New Orleans either, so it's not that big of a deal. I mean, the New Orleans is obviously better, but only slightly. You can still do some decent long-range HE spam from behind islands, etc., so it's not the end of the world. So, half the enemy team has been taken out. Sadly, this wasn't a full match. I don't know what happened there. Matchmaking just decided not to give me any full matches for a few games in the ship. But, regardless, we're still racking up damage. We're at 63k damage. Keep in mind, again, this is tier 6. These ships don't have the 100k HP to farm that you get at higher tiers. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna slow down a little bit as I shell the Graf Spee. As long as I keep my nose pointed towards that Britannia, she shouldn't be able to do too much damage to me. Also, the firing angles are pretty good. Look at this. Look at how my ship is positioned and I can fire at that Graf Spee. The Graf Spee can't do much to me with AP. With HE she could, I think, do some damage, but AP, yeah, as long as I keep myself angled, it's gonna be pretty good. And the nice thing at this tier is that the enemy ships just don't have that much HP, so they go down fairly quickly. When you hit them for 4,000 damage, that's more than 10,000 HP, or 10% of her HP. Okay, I'm gonna start going closer, because I use Hydro because the Graf Spee does have the torpedo range for this. It's something that has caught me out a few times. But I'm gonna just keep going at this point, because I want to be moving once any potential torpedoes arrive. The reason I didn't want to advance earlier is that if I advance too far, the angle between the Britannia and the Graf Spee from my position increases, and I won't be able to angle against both of them. And the moment I show too much broadside to one of them, well, the other one can probably sizzle me if I show too much side. There are the Graf Spee torpedoes, but these should be easy to avoid. Let's just turn in. Remember, fast turning rudder and a good turning circle. Especially easy to avoid when the enemy fires believe that is widespread. Now I'm just going to advance on this battleship. And I'm going to demonstrate to you what an amazingly armored bow means that the battleship cannot overmatch. The important bit is to keep slightly angled so that the shells don't necessarily go through the bow themselves either. Because keep in mind, the ship is basically covered everywhere with 25mm of armor. So the Britannia does not have an easy time because she can't overmatch it. Oh my god! All 10 of those shells hit for 12k damage right there. Against a battleship that has 42k HP. We just took half of that battleship's HP off with 2 salvos. Now do keep in mind that the reload on these guns is fairly long for a cruiser anyway. We're talking a good 13-14 seconds? No, I think it's 15 without Adrenaline Rush being active. But yeah, obviously the Britannia is making a mistake by showing me broadside, but you're playing at a lower tier, you know, these kinds of mistakes are to be expected. CV is striking me with AP rockets, which probably is gonna hurt because I'm not angling against them. Another thing that you might have noticed here is that I hit a few secondary hits. You see, Pensacola has the best secondary accuracy of any ship in the entire game, below I think like 4.5 kilometers, which is Pepsi's secondary range. Even better than Graf Zeppelin. Above 4.5 kilometers, Graf Zeppelin becomes slightly better. But then again, Pepsi isn't gonna have that kind of range anyway. So here I do make a mistake though. I keep firing AP. Unfortunately, the Vesa doesn't exactly have the greatest amount of armor, so at some point I'm just gonna start overpanning massively. Also, another thing is that at least from what I've noticed, the German carriers didn't have they had a fairly low citadel. So maybe I actually needed to just stay further away so that my shells keep arcing from high up. But regardless, she's gonna go down soon. Hopefully. Any day now. Come on, I just need one more so we get the Kraken. Let's go, Kraken. HE, this should do it, right? Easily. Oh my god. Are you kidding me? Aww. The shells were in the air. Just like 10 more seconds and I would have gotten my Kraken. Regardless, though, I mean, 150k damage in a tier 6 heavy cruiser. 4 ships sunk. Shot down a bunch of planes. 8 citadel hits. I still can't believe I did 150k damage. In a Pensacola. What is this? 2,270 base XP. Now, if you're used to tier 10 matches, this might not seem too crazy to you because at tier 10, you know, you sometimes see people get this kind of XP. However, look at our number 2, 1400 base XP, and number 3 is at 1100. Keep in mind that lower tier ships or fighting lower tier ships gives you less XP, at least I think it does. Which means that, yeah, I probably had an excellent game. This probably would have been like a 2700, maybe even 3000 base XP game at tier 10, if I could have had a game this great. So, here's the damage. Look at that AP damage, 124k. And here's the damage I did to the ships. This is just, it blows my mind. Pensacola, surprisingly good. Who would have thought? Definitely not me. So, let's jump over to the commander skills. I went with priority target. You need expert marksman. Then I figured I would take survivability expert because I don't think superintendent makes sense at tier 6. Another potential option is demolition expert or vigilance, but I'm not really sure which one. And then I went concealment expert and adrenaline rush. After that, I again wasn't sure. So you could just settle the build in 12 points, to be honest. Everything else here is just extra that you don't really need. You know, stuff like expert loader, IFA, preventative maintenance. It's just stuff I'm taking because I have the points, so why not? But you really don't need them. Upgrades, obviously rudder shift, because you want to be as amazing with your rudder as possible. This puts it at a really, really good rate. Like, the ship is incredibly maneuverable. And the third slot I go for main battery modification for better turret traverse. And even with this and expert marksman, I still have 34-second turret traverse. It's still too slow. I would really like it to be faster. Then Fury fires and floodings, and then main arms modification 1. So yeah, if you haven't played the Pensacola in a long time, I recommend trying her out. She is surprisingly good. And I had a lot of fun playing her. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I would like to thank the patrons on Patreon. Thank you very much for your continued support, and I hope I'll see you guys next time.